Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film, Blue Ruin. The way Blue Ruin is made is it's very much a very well-made art film, but uses kind of the revenge vigilante genre, and in all its kind of junkiness. The director of this film, Jeremy Saulnier, directs it. It kind of reminds me of when Blockbuster started and when Carpenter started and Spielberg and Lucas, they would direct B movies at an A level. And what he did, similar theory, but basically what he's doing is he's directing a 90-minute tense revenge vigilante movie, but doing it more of kind of an art house way, very influenced by the Coens, and through someone who obviously watched a lot of indie cinema throughout the 90s. Dwight, who has been living in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware as kind of a bum, sleeping in his car and going through trash cans for food and any supplies he can muster up, and just sleeping in his car at night on the beach, or kind of more of a dune outside of the beach, until one day a woman police officer comes and gets him, drives him to the police station and tells him that the man who killed his parents is going to be released from prison with little supplies he has, and tries to find a way to kill him. And since he has no money or supplies or anything, he haphazardly kind of decides to drive his old car that he sleeps in. It's all rusted, and he tries to steal a gun from a car, and it has a lock on it, and he breaks the gun while trying to open the lock. He tries to buy a gun from a pawn shop, but he doesn't have enough money. When his parents' killer gets released from prison, he follows the car and sneaks into the party and stabs him with a steak knife. This isn't really giving much away, because much of the film is the aftermath of that, and dealing with a family who's trying to hunt him down and hasn't told the police that he's killed this man. They're going to take care of it, and he goes and meets up with his sister and has her hide, and he has to come up with a way to fight these people and continue his revenge and find out exactly the reasons behind his parents' murder. One of the things that's really interesting about this film is it starts out, and you don't really know that much about the main character of Dwight, played by Macon Blair, who does a very good performance with not a lot of dialogue, but he's kind of like a dead-in-the-eyes man who only really has purpose in his life now that he can go out and kill this guy, Will Cleland, who killed his parents, and that's like his only real purpose. So he's antisocial, he's strange, he's never really, I guess, had a job, I'm assuming, and he's not really a normal member of society, and he doesn't really know how to deal with people. He's a very awkward person. Macon Blair plays him within his whole strange offbeatness to him, but he both works for the audience where you want to follow him and you understand his story. He's both wants the audience to follow him and uses those scenes to really show, some humanity behind him, but also shows that he's incredibly antisocial and a man who lived in his car on Rehoboth Beach for several years and doesn't have everything really figured out and doesn't really know how to deal with adult life after his parents' murder. And someone you really want to follow. It's kind of an interesting character, because as much as I want to follow Dwight and follow him and get his revenge for his parents' murder, you also realize he doesn't know what he's doing. He's kind of grasping at straws most of the time. He's a complicated character. You both want him to get away with what he's getting away with, but you also realize that he doesn't really know what he's doing at all. It shows murder is hard, murder's not easy, and it's very influenced by Blood Simple by the Coen brothers. And the storytelling throughout it, you don't really know the exact specifics of the murder, how it exactly happened, what happened to him after that, why he eventually wound up on the Rehoboth Beach. It takes a while for the film to kind of explain that. Not all those questions are fully answered, but you follow him anyway because you have a good little intro before he's told about that this guy's getting released from prison, where you see what his life is like. You would see how this guy lives. Those parts show exactly who we're dealing with throughout this film, who the protagonist is. And I like that because it's kind of like meeting someone and you don't exactly know their past, but they're still your friend. They're still someone you hang out with, and they're someone you have a relationship with. And you don't necessarily need to have in a narrative him tell you, his life story right off the bat or anything. And this Jeremy Saulnier, who wrote and directed this film, he did that very well, because It lets the film reveal more as it goes on, but it also gets me to think like, oh, I don't really know this character of Dwight that well, really. I don't know any of this information, but I do know him because I've been through most of this narrative with him. I've been through most of Blue Ruin with him, so I do know him for the most part. It was kind of interesting because when I learned more about him being at this beach for a while and him revealing little tidbits, it feels like when he found out about this guy coming out, it gave him a reason to like come out of his shell and be noticed. Like he was just invisible for all these years, but he doesn't really know how to be visible. Most of the time when someone's on a revenge, even if you look at a Death Wish kind of a film, the characters always have it figured out, and Dwight doesn't know how to shoot really. You know, he misses someone from very close range. He could barely figure out a way to kill the man who killed his parents. He's barely figuring out how to be able to pull this off, but he's going to pull this off. Some of these moments are just like funny human elements that can play off as humor, but also play off as very human, like his thing with the gun and the lock. Dwight doesn't really know when he starts what he's doing. He just wants to do it, and he does it, and then he has to deal with all the repercussions. There's a point in the film where he realizes what's going on, and he seems to be able to handle it, but he doesn't really know what his next move is. You know, it's not your well-organized action thriller. One of the things I like about it is it doesn't deny itself the junkiness of that kind of a genre. So it's not too into the art film world. I think that's one of the things I like about postmodernism in filmmaking, is the way you can combine two things the way Blue Ruin does. Jeremy Salinger really got like what made those directors back in the 70s so great, or made the independent guys so great. They were taking on genres in different ways and showing things that weren't really being done as much. I've never seen a vigilante film done in this way in so long. And even like a film like Blue Caprice, which is another film about an assassin with a crappy car, was a lot more artsy. And this is kind of like a tighter, more American indie movie. And I kind of like that about it. I think it wore it better than I've seen in a lot of art house films in a while. It wants an audience to like it, and it wants you to like Dwight as an audience, but it's not going to soften the blow of what he's actually doing in this film. There's no real wasted moments. It's got a tight run time from when he runs into his friend, played by Devin Rattree, who most of us know as Buzz from Home Alone, who was also in Nebraska. I guess he's having a comeback, who I actually thought did probably one of his best performances I've ever seen from him, especially since Home Alone, I would say. He tries to train Dwight and tries to help him out, but he definitely plays off the concerned old high school chum well. Both happy he's there, but still a little fearful. The character of Dwight, who we're following throughout this whole film, I think is one of the more interesting characters and protagonists I've seen in a film in a long time. He's the driving force of the film, but he's not really a driving force in his own life for a long time. You have this man who even admits at one point, I've never really talked this much in a long time. He's almost like an even more antisocial, docile Travis Bickle. It reminds me a lot of a 70s revenge film, but almost with more of a 80s or 90s indie movie twist to it. I'm very excited for Jeremy Salinger and what he has to offer next, because it's so well directed and so well told, but he does it in such kind of a weird, offbeat, strange way while still acknowledging genre. Blue Ruin is one of the more original small movies I've seen in a while, and I kind of like its view on vigilante justice and gun violence and the darkness it beholds and the unorganized kind of circle of death that comes around it. Blue Ruin's kind of a good title for it because it's not really a happy film, and it's not a film that is going to show everything's going to be right by killing any of these people. It's kind of like brings you to his whole driving force for starting this, and you realize like, oh, there'll be a definite aftermath to all this, and it'll keep going until pretty much everything's ruined. I like its moral message, and it's not meant to make you love any of these characters. It makes you feel a little creepy about revenge. It's just very stunningly well made. It's also shot by Jeremy Salinger, and it also has an appearance by the woman who played Jan Brady in the Brady Bunch movies as well. This is one of the better made indie films or art house films I've seen in a long time, but it's also one of the more junkier and watchable ones I've seen in a long time. One that even a lot of these like inspire me and let me, you know, I want to talk about them for a while, talk about the various theories, but this is one that like I really would like to see again and would like like to be in again and kind of analyze more. And there's not a lot of those that I actually do it with, but I think I actually will do that with Blue Ruin. It's a film that I think is going to live on, and mostly because of its strong presence it gives you, not just because of the great character of Dwight and Jeremy Saulnier's direction, but what the film and the story kind of leaves you with and leaves you thinking about both violence and revenge, vigilante justice, and this genre in general. And it just like unnerved me, and it wrapped me up into this odd Virginia revenge arty movie. I might have been welcomed into it, but it definitely made me feel creepy when I left, but it was still a hell of an enjoyable movie. So if you have seen Blue Ruin and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.